tarea un poco difícil que cumplir porque se me ha pedido que haga la lectura del mensaje que iba a presentar la embajadora Carmen Lomellín, la representante permanente de Estados Unidos ante la OEA, y tengo aquí su discurso y voy a hacer lo mejor posible. No es fácil hablar en nombre del diplomático de otro país, pero en todo caso ella concentra la mayor parte de su presentación sobre temas de la OEA, la Organización de los Estados Americanos, que es algo con lo cual todos nos podemos identificar, los latinoamericanos, de manera que, y sé que Monseñor Azuaje Ayala también va a hablar sobre esto después, de manera que voy a tratar de concentrar mis observaciones en esa parte, más que nada de la presentación que ella tenía preparada, la embajadora Carmen Lomellín. De manera que, con su permiso, voy ahora a hablar en inglés. So, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be with you and to speak before such a distinguished audience on the occasion of the 50th anniversary celebration of Pacem in Terris. Today, half a century later, Pope John XXIII's message of peace and cooperation continues to resonate in our increasingly globalized world. Let me first observe that there is no question that religion plays a significant role in the many of our lives. In fact, recent studies have shown that 84% of the world's population follows a religion of some kind. So whether we are believers or non-believers, we see every day the influence religion has on individuals and societies all over the world. And in the worst cases, we are sometimes reminded of the dangerous consequences when some invoke religion to justify distrust, destruction, and violence. But for those of us in this room today, we believe in religion as a force for good, and we are here to learn how we can better leverage it in the pursuit of a stronger and more peaceful society and societies that are unified in progress rather than divided by difference. This belief, which is the overall reason of these 3 days of celebration, is found in many key messages contained in Pacem in Terris, as it calls upon us to work together to promote and protect the rights of our citizens. One quotation is that it is generally accepted today that the common good is best safeguarded when personal rights and duties are guaranteed. The chief concern of civil authorities must therefore be to ensure that these rights are recognized, respected, coordinated, defended, and promoted, and that each individual is enabled to perform his duties more easily. This view is also reflected in the practices, purposes, and principles furthered by the Organization of American States, the OAS. So I would like to now go back to both of these themes. First, from the global perspective, we have seen a significant shift in support of engagement and dialogue between religious communities from around the world, and this has been said here by many speakers before. We have challenged discrimination and intolerance and fought to protect religious freedom, both at home and abroad. This is a core element in efforts to promote and safeguard human and civil rights. We have all condemned acts of religious intolerance, whether they are against Copts in Egypt, Buddhists in Tibet, or Muslims in the United States. There is a renewed commitment to work with religious leaders and civil society in order to tackle the pressing global challenges. We know that if we're going to tackle the tough issues of the 21st century, from climate change to the Arab Spring to religious intolerance around the globe, we must partner with leaders from beyond the halls of government. That is precisely why in 2011, a strategic dialogue with civil society was launched. This dialogue provides a platform to amplify the voices of civil society, engage with faith-based leaders, and help them work together to address common goals. This effort also serves to support and complement the ongoing work, which monitors and assesses the status of governmental and societal respect for religious freedom, advocates for individual religious freedom cases, and tracks broader religious freedom violations. Now, let me more specifically refer to the OAS itself, and especially in the context of its work in support of peace human rights, hemispheric development, and good governance. The selection of Pope Francis to become the first Latin American pontiff was welcomed with particular joy in the region, in the Western Hemisphere, and clearly sparked renewed awareness and excitement about the role of religious life in Latin America. We are quite fortunate that with few exceptions, the countries of the Americas are characterized by a widespread respect for religious freedom. This includes not just Catholicism, but a wide variety of other Christian denominations, as well as the followers of Judaism and Islam. Still, Latin America is overwhelmingly Catholic, home to 40% of the world's Roman Catholics. In this context, it was particularly meaningful for us to see Pope Francis, in the very early weeks of his papacy, do those simple but such powerful acts, such as reaching out to Jewish and Muslim people during the services at Holy Week. These actions surely sent a strong message of tolerance throughout the whole world. At the OAS, we are reminded each day of the importance of fostering greater understanding and tolerance, personally, within societies, and among nations. The broad impact of these actions are addressed within Pacem in Terris. This highlights for us the value of social and state recognition of the rights and duties of citizens. Fortunately, governments throughout the Americas have made great strides in this area over the last half-century, and the OAS has strongly supported and the related efforts of regional governments to protect human rights, strengthen democratic institutions, and combat inequality and impunity. As an inclusive organization made up of sovereign, diverse countries legitimized by democracy, working on an equal footing to advance the same hemispheric agenda, the OAS promotes and embodies the spirit of peaceful resolution, cooperation, and consensus. And as some of you may already know, the relationship between Latin America, the OAS, and human rights is a very deep-rooted one. Latin American countries played a leading role in the development of the American Declaration on the Rights and Duties of Man, and the subsequent Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is, of course, the cornerstone of our modern regional and global human rights legal systems. Moreover, the domestic implementation of these declarations directly serves to advance the call expressed in Pacem in Terris for a, quote, a clear and precisely worded charter of fundamental human rights to be formulated and incorporated into the state's general constitutions. The OAS has also much more recently established a regional consensus on the right to democracy, This consensus is documented in the success of the Inter-American Democratic Charter, which celebrated its 10th anniversary in 2011. The Democratic Charter is a core document in the Inter-American system now. For the first time, it described democracy as a right. It also described the promotion and the defense of democracy as an obligation of OAS member states. This was a radical step within the world of international relations and advanced the promotion and protection of human rights. Article 1 of the Charter states the following: the peoples of the Americas have a right to democracy, and their governments have an obligation to promote it and to defend it. This language serves as a powerful affirmation of the region's vision of democracy, not just as a system of government, but as a fundamental and practical responsibility of governments towards their citizens. This is notable because there had previously been great resistance to identifying a form of government as a right, largely because some feared an effort to impose a single model for all. Moreover, rights bring with them obligations, as has been said many times during these last 2 days. So OAS members are continuing to work hard to relate in useful ways to the two groups of human rights, the civil and political rights on the one hand, and the economic, social, and cultural rights on the other. These two categories of rights are closely linked, and countries within the region view them as interdependent and interrelated. This vision is also expressed in the Democratic Charter I was just referring to, and serves as a conceptual foundation for many ongoing OAS efforts to enhance regional development and social justice. It is also important to highlight that the independent regional human rights institutions of the Americas, especially the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, remain what some consider the crown jewels of the OAS, which have benefited many member states. Over the last few decades, the Commission on Human Rights has received thousands of petitions and processed over 12,000 individual cases against governments for human rights violations. The fact-based reporting of the region's human rights system has also borne witness to many positive and negative human rights development in the hemisphere, documenting, for example, actions taken by some governments through legislation or the justice system to restrict the activities of human rights defenders, including members of NGOs and the independent media. The hemisphere is rightly proud of the good work that these institutions have done and continue to do, and the Americas point to them as a model for the world. Through ongoing processes at the OAS and in other regional fora, it is also important to underscore that Latin America continues to open new spaces for dialogue among and between countries. This in turn has allowed for the active participation of previously marginalized people. This is occurring not only at the OAS, where we are seeing an increase in the level of civil society participation, but also within the region, where we are seeing newly forming institutions and mechanisms for cooperation. And in a more global context, the OAS has held various discussions and forums with institutions from other regions in the context of interregional cooperation, including with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe and the African Union, where the issue of creating new tools for collaboration has been a top agenda item. Clearly, as this discussion panel implies, our various regional bodies indeed have a great deal to share and learn from each other. Such positive developments point to the fact that democracy has continued to deepen throughout the Americas over the past decade, in part because of the OAS Democratic Charter. However, the work of many OAS member states is not finished because challenges to human rights, social progress, and democracy remain. We must work to address these challenges together. When we pursue our common goals together, we thrive. And when democratic practice is threatened anywhere, it harms all of us. So in closing, I would like to note the many efforts in the region that promote good governance, access to justice, the inclusion of traditionally marginalized groups, freedom of expression and religion, the elimination of gender-based violence and child labor, and trafficking in persons. It is the fundamental duty of states to provide equal protection and benefits to all its citizens, regardless of how God made them. Many regional institutions, and the OAS is only one of them, share many common commitments to human rights, social justice, and democracy, and we have much to learn from each other. The Catholic Church has a powerful and significant presence in the Americas, and obviously supports strongly the principle of human dignity, which is so central to the tenets of human rights. So it can play an important supportive role in this regard. As you know, the Holy See is an observer state at the Organization of American States, and I can tell you that all states members of the organization look forward to an increased engagement and with all of the activities of the organization on the part of the Holy See. Thank you very much.